Hey guys, it's Micah from edeneyetarot. I am here today to talk to you about the new moon in Gemini that will be happening on May 30th at 7:30 a.m. And I'll be talking all about what this new moon will kind of entail on a general level. If you guys want to get into more specifics and see how this is kind of playing out for you and how Gemini season as a whole is kind of playing out for you, what it's bringing, what lessons and shenanigans it's bringing. I did do a hour long video on Gemini season where I not only talked about some of the major aspects of Gemini season, but also I pulled cards. I do believe I pulled like 3 each for that video for each sign. And so if you were looking for something more individualized for you, and more general, like as far as like the season of Gemini, go ahead and watch that video that I posted. But today we're talking more so about the new moon in Gemini. And so we're not doing tarot in this video, but we will be talking about the new moon in Gemini and what it's really bringing in. The first thing I think of when I think of this new moon in Gemini is the fact that it's at it's Gemini, so it's going to be about information, communication, intellect. It's going to be about movement. It's making a really nice sextile to Mars and Jupiter and Aries, and so a lot of movement is happening. Things are really clicking forward, even though this new moon is ruled by a Mercury retrograde in Taurus, which makes this, just a very dynamic new moon, so to speak. But before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit about what new moons represent, or at least what I personally, kind of correspond them to. So I correspond new moons to a time of more like reflection, or a time where we're really seeing things being more focused on like the potential that has not been seen yet, or things to come but haven't actually like shown up yet. So we're seeing a lot of during a new moon, we're seeing, or like not even seeing, we're sensing a lot of what is to come, and we're planting the seeds for that. It's a time of new beginnings, or a time where things can really be inspired, especially since it's Gemini. It's about like maybe inspired thought, new ideas coming in, that you are taking into Cancer season to actually so I kind of see like this new moon in Gemini as like the conception, and then when you go into Cancer season, it's kind of like the 9 months of like pregnancy, so to speak. And then you're pregnant all up until Virgo season, the end of Virgo season, where you are birthing out that baby, and in its Libra season, and you're in a Venus ruled sign. Personally, that's how I see it. But definitely we're talking about inspired thought, and this is where everything kind of begins, where you're starting off this new season. Gemini is like that transition energy, and so there is a lot of change being felt, and a lot of things being exchanged, a lot of things being added, but also subtracted as well, when we are looking at this new moon in Gemini. But we were talking about the new moon in general. So it's a time of new beginnings, possibly a time of uncertainty, and a time where we're really looking at reflection and inner work as well, and sowing the seeds for things to come. So let's jump into like, what does this mean as far as being a new moon in Gemini? Something that I think of first and foremost is like what words we're speaking, or what words are being spoken over us. Gemini is all about like communication, words. And so I think of like affirmations, especially since Mercury retrograde in Taurus is ruling over this new moon. And so Mercury being in a Venus ruled sign, it's about like what kind of value or what kind of weight are you putting on your words, and are your words bringing value to you? Are you telling yourself maybe that that your dream is just a dream, and that it's not going to happen because you're too afraid of what will happen if it actually does come true? Are you afraid of the work that might take, the maintenance that might take? Are you afraid of having that kind of responsibility? that can all kind of come into play. Or are you ready for it? Then you're just kind of like, what's up, universe? Let's get this cracking. Those kinds of words that you speak over yourself and, your aspirations and your vision for the future are very powerful right now. And so really watch what you're saying about like plans that you have for in the future, especially, go back to that, Gemini season video that I did. I talk a little bit more about, the importance, like with that trine to Saturn, that the sun in Gemini will eventually make, as will Mercury will eventually make the same trine to Saturn as well in Aquarius. And so I would also say Gemini is, not just about the words that we're saying, but it's also about the words that other people are saying. What kind of words are other people speaking over you? And are they helping you or hindering you when it comes to the words that they're feeding you? And how are you absorbing that? Or how are you not absorbing it, and how are you blocking it out? Both are equally important, depending on the situation. We can also, think of Gemini. Gemini is about like information that you're picking up. Gemini is such a like hummingbird kind of energy. It's really a like almost like a pollinator, almost, or like a busy bee or like a hummingbird. It's about picking up information from over here and then taking it to this place, and dropping or sprinkling a little bit of the information that you got over here, and then picking up more information from the second place, and then continuing that just like a bee would. And it's about sharing in a way information, but also it's about like finding new truths, but not maybe digging too deep into it. But it's about like sampling things as well. And so it's all about learning. It's about like what connections are you making, along the way of being that pollinator. I don't think anybody has met a Gemini that is I'm sure there are quiet Geminis, my best friend being one of them, but Geminis are so gifted at being able to connect and talk to others, and really be able to have a conversation, maybe just about anything, really. They know just enough about a lot of stuff to be able to have a conversation about it, and I think that on a deeper level, that comes from the ability to not have to hold on to things. They really embrace that Cancer energy, which is really emphasized a lot more at the end of their season, that is kind of like conflicting with the energy that's coming at the beginning of their season, which is Taurus. And that's how we get the double body sign of Gemini, is by putting Taurus and Cancer together. It is the knowledge of some things are valuable, yes, for a time, whereas Taurus might collect things and want to hold on to things, Cancer is at the other end of Gemini saying we have to remember what really matters, and it's okay to release things as well. It's okay for change. And so we see that duality come in the sign of Gemini, and Gemini itself is really able to embrace that and really say, I had this for a time. This was shiny. This is new. This is valuable. But this is something, this is something that served me for a while. And so I'm okay with releasing it when it's no longer serving me. Gemini is really great with being okay with things falling apart and having to move on to the next. And I think that's something that's just so awesome about the sign of Gemini and the people that hold on to that, or that are representatives of that energy. It's about the connections that you have, like I said, as well as what new ideas are you birthing as well, or what new ideas are you coming up with? What ideas or inspirations are you having kind of like around you as well that are kind of setting you off as well? And it can also be about like, where is your time being spent, especially when we talk about aspects to Saturn that will happen later in Gemini season, not at this time, but, especially like later in Gemini season. Where is time being spent, or where is it being stolen? Where are you wasting time at? I think is, really important as well, because efficiency is really key with this new moon in Gemini. We're setting the stage for the rest of Gemini season. So let's talk a little bit about Mercury and Taurus being the ruler of Gemini. We've kind of already talked about Mercury retrograde in Taurus a bit. And so I'm just going to talk about it in the case of like, how does it relate to this new moon? And so when I think of Mercury retrograde in Taurus being the ruler of the new moon in Gemini, I'm thinking about like feeding the mind, because Taurus is like all about like food and resources, right? And so it's like, what are you kind of adding to yourself and your value when it comes to like information or intellect or like new education? Or what information are you picking up? So you could be like starting new programs of study, maybe like buying new gadgets, buying new cars, things like that can be like very like Mercury and Taurus, or like, trying to rebudget for things like, taking trips or buying gadgets and phones and cars and things like that. Or like starting new areas of study and maybe like really investing in something like that to be able to add to your own value, or, to raise, self-esteem, or things like that can really come up with Mercury retrograde in Taurus being the ruler of this new moon. But I could also see like getting more active. We were talking a little bit about self-esteem briefly, and I could see it really playing into like, especially with the sextile to Mars and Jupiter and Aries, about getting more active, maybe starting new workout routines, and or like a new workout plan. Maybe some of you might start running. I know I definitely have, I've noticed that ever since Gemini season started and Mars is getting closer to Aries, I started like actually like running instead of doing my daily, morning walk. I started running more. And so maybe some of you are getting into running, or, maybe a bit more intensive kinds of like workout regimens. You could also see like maybe changing plans as it like relates to work. Maybe some of you are renegotiating what you're being paid because you have information that's very valuable. I think it's, a really big thing with Mercury and Taurus ruling over this new moon, that information becomes currency, or information is very much valued. And people are going to start asking for more resources, whether it's in the form of money or recognition or whatever. Because of the information they know and what they're giving back to people in that form of information. And then that exchange is worth something, and it's being very much recognized. We can also see it's not just what you know, but it's who you know as well. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Gemini to Taurus. It's not just what you hold as far as like value, but it's also about what you know. Because Taurus is a Venus ruled sign, it's about like the connections that you have as well. And so in a way, it's not just what you know or who you know, but it's also about what you do with that as well. We can see like new surprising information or needing to make decisions quickly with that sextile to Mars and Jupiter. I think this is definitely going to be growing like a lot of people's like circles, and expanding their networks as well. It can really shock you, I think, with some of the new messages or like, new correspondences that you kind of get during this time as well, or needing to really move on something really quickly can come up. I think we can really see a lot of that. I'm just saying like this new moon in Gemini can really be it's no longer like what we were seeing in Taurus season, where we had lots of planets between like kind of scattered between Pisces and Taurus, where everything was just moving super slow. Gemini season, everything is picking up. So it can also be like going back and forth about like the value of information as well. So like, and to an extent, I've had to do this as well. I had to just renegotiate pay for a certain job that I've been a job position that I've been in for a while, and so I would not be surprised if all of that continues to come up for people during the next 2 weeks that this new moon is kind of like really exuding all of its energy. Brainstorming for the future can really come up, especially when we get closer to the trine with Saturn. Hearing others out or hearing each other out, it could be a great opportunity not only to speak your truth, but also to hear the truth of others and, work together through problem solving and critical thinking. I think the big thing that we can, kind of fall into with Mercury and Taurus is stubborn thinking, is, thinking like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But a lot of times other people have, a different perspective that can really help us to think outside of the box, to learn more, to innovate, to get out of a rut. To have those, ace of swords moments and have breakthroughs mentally and creatively as well. It can be about debate, and I guess on the negative side, it could be about arguments. Mercury loves to like question things and needle things, and get into the details of things. It likes to, especially with being in Taurus, it's about quality of the details, not putting things out too quickly. And making sure that things are of quality before they're actually put out. It's not about necessarily quantity, but about quality. And I think that's where this Mercury and Taurus, even though it is retrograde, is really helping to, focus this very fast Quicksilver energy of the new moon in Gemini. It's about quality information, not just about a whole bunch of information being spewed. And I think we'll see a lot of that kind of coming into some challenges the deeper that we get into Gemini season, around that same time where we're seeing the trine with Saturn in Aquarius. We're also seeing that square off with Neptune in Pisces. And so I think we could see, a big focus on what is the quality of information that we're getting from the media or from other people or from news sources and things like that. Asking for help on issues or problems you may be having. It's a great time for sharing and joining like co-ops and, just to kind of get like those brain juices going, or to, get more inspired by other people, bounce ideas off of others. It can also be like, asking for help, especially when it comes to others, like investing into a project or a vision that you have for the future. Or just like really expanding your circle or network, as I was saying before. Travel can really be a big one, especially since this new moon is at a 9, which is a Sagittarius degree. And so it's not just about learning and searching for truth. It's also about travel and philosophy and, maybe taking time for leisure, expanding your knowledge base. But sometimes knowledge base doesn't just come from a book. It comes from experience and getting outside of your normal environment to kind of grow your mind. Maybe some of you are diving into spirituality. Maybe some of you are going to a whole nother country to experience a whole different culture, to be able to kind of, have a new spiritual experience, or experience that is just changes you very deeply. And it maybe even to heal as well can come up. Be careful about how fast you're moving, especially like in cars or at home, especially like with, concerning like fire and sharp objects. With that sextile with Mars, Mars is literally going to be like knives and blood. And Mars and Aries can be like, nicking yourself with a knife, or like burning yourself while you're cooking something at home on the stove. But also I think of like Mercury, that new moon in Gemini can be like, you're trying to get to work or whatever, and you're just kind of like buzzing through the highway and you get in an accident. So be very careful about how impulsive and how quickly you're actually like moving, because you could get into some accidents, not just of course in cars. Like you can get into plenty of accidents on foot as well, so just be very careful with that. And speaking of aspects to Mars and this moon, the moon is all about like home. So a lot of you might be moving or getting ready to move, and possibly like, purging your home or getting ready to move. Mercury is in a Venus ruled sign, of course, and so so we can maybe see like cleaning house, needing to like clean house in some way, even if it doesn't have to directly relate to the house. It's about cleaning house. Venus is cleanliness. And so it can be about needing to kind of like clean house, get rid of things so that you can have room and space for maybe like that new beginning or that pivot that we see at the end of Gemini season going into Cancer season. So I hope this was helpful. That is all I have for you today. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to book a reading with me, check out the description down below, like, share, and comment on this video. I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.